Hi, I'm Deborah Bailey, and I'm here today just to talk a little bit about my painting that was selected by Susan Cross for this ongoing show at the Albany Institute of History and Art. The name of the piece is Spring Afternoon. It was painted at the Laughing Earth Farm in Tamarack, the Tamarack location. I guess that's part of Brunswick. The piece is 16 by 20. And most of the work was done while I was sitting in this pig barn. So I found it very, at first, not the location where I really wanted to spend a lot of time, but as the pigs got used to me and I got used to them, it really worked out well. So what I usually start with doing any kind of painting is to do an underpainting, which is something that I tell my students all the time, that the composition is really the most important part of the piece. And with this, I did a small sketch. This is just a charcoal sketch working with values and increasing those values or decreasing those values as the piece goes along. In this, you won't see very many animals because at the time I started the sketch, no one was around. They were all out for lunch. And quickly they came back when they realized there was a human in their space. The reason I chose this particular view was basically the light filtering through these billowing curtains. And the curtains are there primarily not to create a boundary from wind or anything, but to give shade. This is done in, I think, a really hot month, probably July. So the animals are protected by screening them with these dark shades. And I've always been influenced by the sails, the light on the sails that Sorolla, the Spanish painter Sorolla, did, and also more recently by Jamie Wyatt's images of people holding blankets by the seashore with the wind billowing through them. And I love that effect of the way the light filters through, the way that the light and the sun show movement on form. So that was my primary interest in choosing this particular barn. The passageways where light just sort of beams in, and otherwise the interior can be very dark. So I thought that I would just go with the architecture of it, which I love, and the stillness and the quietness of the barn, the shadow and the light. And then the pigs started entering and the chickens came back. And they're very curious little beasts, and I never really spent that much time alone in a barn with a number of pigs before. And the little guys are just really curious, very interested in people. They have these little personalities. They're really quite joyful, not knowing that when they reach a mature state, they will be slaughtered and used for food. And chickens have this wonderful little apparatus, this stand that's built out of little pieces of wood and limbs, and they roost on this during the day. And it's just a very pleasant space, and the way that the animals are treated is very kind, and they have sort of a joyful existence. So I also teach painting and drawing at the Art Center in the Capital Region in Troy. And one of my focuses, of course, is establishing the composition and hooking on to that in a really strong, vibrant way. So a lot of people don't want to spend that time. They just want to sit down and start painting. And I find that it's really useful for you to walk around the site, to view it from different viewpoints, whether you're seated and looking up or standing, looking down. The more time that you spend in the space, the more familiar you are with it, and the more you can draw from it. So in this particular case, I think I went back maybe 5 times and did sketches and then ended up finishing the piece in the studio. I'm really surprised it was chosen for the Mohawk-Hudson Regional, really, because I was thinking if I could interview Susan Cross, I would ask her, why me, why this piece? But as I walk around this particular room, there are a lot of images that kind of quiet the mind, and there's a peacefulness about it, and it's the individual in the environment not crowds of people, but the individual and how the individual relates to the environment. So this kind of goes back to me being alone in the pig barn, I think, for hours on end and really just being one-on-one with the animals. So I think the exhibit, particularly this room, is not what I expected when I walked into the gallery today. So I would encourage anyone to come and see the exhibit because it's an opportunity to view some really wonderful, interesting work. I guess what I want to do too is talk a little bit about what's happened to us as artists with this whole COVID thing. I even hate to say the word COVID, but I was talking to some other artists about this too. What it's taken away from us in the fact that we can't talk to people one-on-one about our work. We can't have them ask us questions. We can't get feedback. We can't get a feeling of whether or not they're interpreting what we were trying to say with the piece. And that's been it's created a huge void, and it's been a big problem for all of us to feel inspired and encouraged to keep creating, keep working in the studios. My studio in the Ilium building in Troy was actually locked. It was in lockdown for a couple of months. So we all scrambled to get our studio supplies and paint in our kitchens. I mean, I paint a lot outdoors, so the transition to have classes outdoors and also for my own work to be created outdoors wasn't a big hurdle once the warm weather hit. Now we're going back into fall and winter, and we're all sort of scrambling again, like how are we going to handle this? The other part of that is that it's been wonderful to continue to have classes, and I encourage people to keep painting, keep drawing, because it's that thing that connects us to what we think of as normal life. You know, that's one thing you can still do and feel like you're generating something from yourself, you know, about this time that we're going through, what you're observing, what you're feeling. But also connecting to the landscape has a very calming effect, I think, for me, at least working outdoors can be really exhilarating. Painting a sunflower field, I mean, it fills me up so that I feel like, okay, I can handle another week of this. So positioning yourself within the context of COVID to keep creating, learn an instrument, do something artistic, it really saves your soul.